Hello everyone! What are your associations with the word mitochondria? Surely it's a cell or a bacterium. But what if we tell you that it's the #1 energy generator for the entire body, and scientists know how to activate it? Don't believe it? Skeptics will say it's another inflated myth and a search for a panacea. But Doctor of Biology and Philosophy Aubrey asserts that if the body is properly tuned, it can serve for 1,000 years. Today, scientists are convinced that early aging of the organism, the emergence of cancer, diabetes, and 90% of other dangerous diseases are linked with the malfunctioning of mitochondria. In this video, we'll try to figure out whether this method is indeed effective, or if it's just a myth about yet another panacea. Are there those who have lived to 100 years thanks to the mitochondrial diet? If you watch until the end, you'll have a chance to repair damaged mitochondria and improve your health condition. Enjoy the viewing. Once entrepreneur and nutrition expert Dave Asprey experienced a sharp decline in memory, but doctors found no disorders. "Your brain is absolutely healthy," concluded the specialists. Then Asprey started investigating the causes himself and discovered it was all about the smallest structures of our organism, the mitochondria, and even invented a special bulletproof diet that solved his problem. Doctor of Biology and Philosophy Aubrey believes that the human body can be upgraded so it can live up to 1,000 years. The use of a computer term is no accident. By his first degree, Gray is a mathematician and programmer. Perhaps that's why he often compares a person to a computer or just a mechanism. Imagine a car. The first rust appears on the very day you get it from the car wash. But you don't have to worry for the first 5 years, and if you remove the rust after 5 years, the door won't fall off for another 10 years. Yes, we begin to accumulate damage. Aubrey suggests starting to repair the human body with mitochondrial DNA. Let's recall that mitochondria are tiny energy stations in our cells, the smallest organelles that combine organic matter from food and oxygen from the air to produce the energy necessary for our cells to work effectively. And the fewer of them there are, the worse the quality of life. In a healthy body, there are about 1 quadrillion mitochondria, which is a gigantic number. Humanity learned about them relatively recently, and their internal structure was only described by biologist George Palade in 1953. It's precisely the mitochondria that produce adenosine triphosphate, ATP, rightly called the energy of life. Almost all of our cells need ATP. Without it, they simply couldn't survive. Think about it. The average person can survive about 40 days without food, from 3 to 5 days without water. But without ATP, they would perish in a matter of seconds. Have you heard of ATP? If not, share in the comments why such an important component is not taught in chemistry lessons. For example, a reduction in mitochondrial DNA concentration in the blood is a sign of aging in the organism and is directly associated with an increased risk of death from any cause. This conclusion was reached by staff at Johns Hopkins University, who studied data from long-term observations of more than 16,000 elderly Americans. The study report was published in the Journal of Molecular Medicine. Today, the number of studies on this topic is off the charts. So-called mitochondrial diets are becoming increasingly popular. But there are so many that even a specialist would find it hard to navigate this sea of information. Everyone agrees on one thing: obesity, stress, lack of physical activity, and the diet that the so-called civilized world has gotten used to is the fastest way to ruin your mitochondria. For instance, sugar and trans fats quickly lead to their aging. Meanwhile, old mitochondria are not disposed of, and new ones appear in much smaller quantities than necessary. As a result, our body feels something like this. Our tiny power stations break down. Another point is that the cells of the brain, heart, and retina are literally packed with mitochondria, so they are the first to be at risk. When you have less energy than needed, or when these cells waste energy in vain. If neurons have energy problems, you get cognitive disorders and memory problems. If these signals are ignored, pathological processes will start. But there is good news. It turns out mitochondria can be born anew. That is, they are capable of biogenesis. Think this is only relevant for the elderly? From 30 to 70 years, mitochondria reduce their productivity by about 50%. But today, this can even happen to 20-year-olds. Increased fatigue, constant malaise, poor sleep, dry skin, loss of skin elasticity, all these are the first symptoms of mitochondrial aging. A person is still young and relatively healthy, but his microscopic energy stations already need not just repair, but urgent replacement. Would you buy spare mitochondria if you could? However, as it turns out, replacing them is quite easy. For new mitochondria to appear, the broken and old ones need to be destroyed. There's a phenomenon known as autophagy, the self-destruction of sick and old cells and organelles. In the case of mitochondria, this is called mitophagy. How to start this process? And why do mitochondria break down and age in the first place? Here are the 7 most common reasons. Improper nutrition. What happens if you fuel an internal combustion engine with gasoline heavily diluted with water? Mitochondria also need to be fueled with high-quality raw materials so they can efficiently produce energy and self-repair in case of damage. The mitochondrion is a peculiar boiler in which nutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates burn. Proper nutrition is one of the simplest and fastest ways to boost mitochondria. A minimum of sugars and simple carbohydrates, refined grains, white bread, and refined products. As many vegetables, fruits, berries, plant oils, nuts, and seafood as possible. In addition, there are a whole range of products that renew and rejuvenate mitochondria. Sprouts, cheese, soy, mushrooms due to the geroprotector, spermidine, raspberries, pomegranates, walnuts are very beneficial for our energy prebiotics. The already mentioned vegetables, berries, and some fruits. For example, pectin from apples, seaweeds, chicory. Another way to activate mitochondria is to create a mild stress for them due to sulforaphane. This substance is synthesized in the intestine when consuming turnips, broccoli, and other types of cabbage. It is found most in broccoli sprouts. Toxins and hormonal deficit. Fluoride compounds, which today enter the human body, can reduce the level of thyroid hormones necessary for maintaining the work and efficiency of mitochondria. The liver converts T4, the main thyroid hormone, into T3, which helps mitochondria produce ATP. If the liver does not work properly, it will not create enough hormone for effective energy production. Moreover, it is in the mitochondria that sexual hormones are formed from cholesterol, and a decrease in their quantity or function lowers hormone levels. Toxins in the environment are one of the main reasons for mitochondrial dysfunction. Today we are exposed to thousands of different toxic chemical compounds and pollutants that did not exist 100 years ago. To eliminate them, the volume of cellular energy that would have been sufficient 100 years ago may not be enough. Stress. Any kind of stress leads to the adrenal glands producing cortisol, a hormone that regulates blood sugar levels, metabolism, immune response, inflammation, blood pressure, and the activation of the central nervous system. The stress response is activated so often that the cortisol level remains high all the time. Chronic stress leads to many problems including poor fat metabolism and an increased need for sugar. This affects the mitochondria. By the way, it's specifically chronic stress that's dangerous, while short-term stress, on the contrary, leads to the activation of mitochondria. Overeating. With excessive nutrition, mitochondria, figuratively speaking, become sluggish and lazy, and their efficiency fades. Overeating often leads to obesity. Scientists from the basic laboratory of immunology and cellular biotechnologies have established that in obesity, the number of copies of mitochondrial DNA decreases in mitochondria, and more intense DNA mutations are observed. All this can provoke the development of oncological diseases and diabetes. The fewer calories, the fewer mutations in organelles. Against a backdrop of low-calorie intake, another process of removing bad mitochondria is activated. They self-destruct. Mitochondria love fasting, but preferably not for themselves. During intermittent fasting, from 16 to 36 hours, processes of mitoptosis are initiated. That is the programmed death of old mitochondria through the formation of organelles containing enzymes that break down damaged mitochondria. The cell itself does not die in the process. Lack of physical activity. This is another way to impair mitochondria. After all, they need a large amount of oxygen to function. The mitochondria of an adult human absorb up to 400 liters of oxygen per day. This results in about 40 kilograms of ATP, which serve as the source of energy necessary for muscle contractions, the conduction of nerve impulses, and the majority of biochemical reactions. At rest, 28 grams of ATP are used per minute, and with physical activity, 500 grams. Regular aerobic exercises such as brisk walking, running, dancing, swimming are another way to increase the number of young mitochondria. If you've already tried something from the list above, share the result in the comments. Too comfortable temperature. Constantly staying in comfortable temperature conditions also weakens the vitality of mitochondria. It turns out they like the cold. More precisely, the cold activates the assembly of new mitochondria. Cryosauna, winter swimming, and cold water showers will do. The positive effect of cold water on mitochondria is associated with the activation of the main cellular regulator of mitochondria. Lack of sleep. Our body lives according to its own biorhythms. According to them, the release of the sleep hormone melatonin in the brain occurs from 9 p.m. But typically we miss this moment. We go to bed after midnight, specifically from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. The body, being in continuous sleep, replenishes its resources. Studies have shown that normal sleep increases the mitochondria's ability to self-repair. Does it also seem to you that everything listed above most of all resembles the traditional lifestyle of our ancestors? Over millennia, a unique system of knowledge was formed that gave people a long, happy, spiritually and physically healthy life. Modern systems, based on contemporary research, are essentially reinventing the wheel. Thank you for watching the video to the end, for liking and writing a comment. It's very important for us to know that you like our videos. Only then do we understand that what we do is important to you.